everybody.
Welcome. This is the School District of Prescott Board of Education regular meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Subject Section 1983 Wisconsin statutes. Our first item here is to adopt the agenda. Rick, are there any changes?
One's just out of protocol. There is a business item that is listed that we do not have all the information. We wanted to know, it's letter E, consider a video board for softball. We're willing to have a discussion, but you would probably have to table it because you wouldn't have enough information, or do you just want to scratch it?
We'll be ready next month.
Yes.
There's no, I mean, we can't act on it?
No, it wouldn't be prudent to act on without.
Does the board have an opinion on this? Do you want to just scratch it, or do you want to move it to info and discussion? I would be fine scratching it. We can
Yeah,
move
that's
off
fine.
on it.
That's fine. I'm good.
All right, let's just scratch it. So strike item E. All right. Anything else?
Nope, otherwise everything is the same.
I'll move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Item 3 is Pledge of Allegiance. Steve, care to lead us?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll move to item 4, recognition of visitors. Anybody in the audience that care to be recognized tonight? Move on to item 5, good news.
Yes, tonight we have a new student representative, and we're going to have her go first. Ryan and I got to meet earlier this week, and it is also homecoming week. So if you look in the audience, you'll see that our 3 administrators with the high school are out at the Powder Puff game, either reffing or engaging. And then there is a bonfire tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and have her do a report, and then she is going to exit quickly because she is about to kick off.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Ryan. I'm a senior this year, if some of you don't know me. And this year has been going extremely well. We scrapped some things from the past from homecoming, but we're doing a lot more new fun things, like including the community a lot more this year. We have a tailgate on Friday that's open to come to. And we're hoping that the rest of this year will be good. The rest of our clubs are running really smoothly. Inclusivity Club has new projects that will also involve the community. And everything is going really well.
All right. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Welcome aboard.
Have fun tonight.
Enjoy.
Winning is the most important thing,
I
right?
agree.
Strike that.
All right, and then, like I said, we have a reduced number of on our administrative team, and so we'll have our middle school principal come up and talk about the start and good news from middle school. Mr. Eigel.
Good evening, members of the board. Kyle Eigel, middle school principal. Today after school, we just had our first official staff meeting of the new school year. And as I told my staff, I congratulated them. This has been our best start at Prescott Middle School in my time. We have been focused on learning. We have been focused on high expectations. This is the earliest that we started our interventions. The second day of school, it's the earliest that we've ever had interventions going. The student body and the student population has been truly amazing. Our kiddos this year are really focused. They are determined to be learners and are learners within the classroom. So I'm just very proud of the middle school students and staff for the great things that we have started in the first 3 weeks. This week we have started our first round of screening. And so focused on academics, by Friday we'll have a real good picture of where we're sitting today in relation to how we kind of ended the year with our Wisconsin Forward Assessment. So again, our students have been great so far. Our staff has been really knocking it out of the park. So congratulations to all of them. And we look forward to an amazing school year this year.
Thank you, Mr. Eigel.
Thank you.
And our activities director, Mr. Andrew Caudill, who is doing double time inside and outside. So
Just a couple items. As is mentioned before, it's homecoming week this week. Football hosts Amory on Friday night. There's going to be a tailgating activity before the game. And we're also planning a walk where football and dance and whoever will walk from the high school down Pine. Maybe a little new tradition being started this year. Girls volleyball second home event is tomorrow. So St. Croix Central's in here, so it'll be a really good match. They are playing very well right now. Girls golf's #1 in the state. They're the leader in the conference. Their championship is Monday, and they start their state tournament run next week as well. Cross country is having a nice year so far. Did really well at our home event last week, and they're going to run in Durand and at the GRIAC Invite up in the cities this week, which is their premier event. And then finally, as a little update for you, on Monday we finalized our boys basketball event at Pfizer Forum. We will play Racine St. Catherine's on January 16th. Because that's MLK Day, the Bucks and the Indiana Pacers will play at 1:30. Prescott and St. Cat's will tip off roughly 5:30. It's going to be a really good game, one of the best non-conference games in the state this year. So I want to thank St. Cat's. They did a great job helping us get that done. Union Grove High School in the area has offered their facility to our program that Sunday for practice. And Osceola did us a solid by moving a conference game to help us make that happen. So we are really excited about that. Ticket information will be released by the Bucks in the next few weeks. So thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. And Sandy? Sandy Strand is our Director of Student Services.
Thank you, Dr. Spacuzza, members of the board. Happy to report that special education and student services is off to a great start. We have been identifying those students in need, students who are homeless, students with English learning needs, and working on identifying supports for those individuals, calling in resources from CISA to support. Also, even with the change in staffing at multiple levels, I feel that our staff has really kind of come together, and where, especially at the middle school, where we were concerned that 3 out of the 4 teachers were new, it's a very solid team, and through weekly updates and regular touch-ins with the staff, I feel like we are really, really fortunate in this district with our special services staff and leadership and educators that really have a strong philosophy around inclusion and that all students can learn. So I'm very, very proud of this team. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you, Sandy. I just want to kind of echo and amplify some of the comments that were made by our administrative team. As you know, when we open a school year, we go from 0 to 100 in a snap of a finger. We open up food service in which we're providing breakfast and lunch to over 1,300 families. We provide transportation at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end of the day across 4 sites, plus 3 additional 4K centers, and then also 4 parochial schools. We also, our custodians have been working hard, both on our grounds to make sure that our athletics for the fall sports are able to play in fantastic fields, and then also to make sure that all of our schools' classrooms are set up and ready to go. Also, our tech department, as we were doing some transition, and you'll be meeting or learning about a new addition to our district during hires, has been up, and our Google Classrooms, our technology, our one-to-one initiative at the 6th through 8 was unleashed, if you will, and has gone extremely well for the beginning. If you look around our district on St. Croix Street down by the elementary, you'll see new crosswalk signs that have been installed. We're still waiting on one that'll be put on it's on Campbell by the elementary. St. Croix is all set up, and we're just waiting for that to be put in. And then the sidewalk that has matched up from Campbell to St. Croix and by the new housing development was installed over the summer. So again, just an incredible start. I also want to thank our staff. Every individual, the morale has been outstanding. The parent-teacher, the welcome fairs that were provided is probably one of the best starts I've been able to participate in my career. So I really do believe that the smooth start will go a long way to getting us to support our families, build back relationships, and continue to see our students perform extremely well on the state assessments. So thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to school business. We have the consent agenda as our first item. And in the consent, we have August 17th, 2022 regular board minutes. We have board checks, finance, resignations, and new hires. Is there anything in the consent that the board would like to pull out? If not, I will adopt the consent agenda. Are there any objections? If no objections, the consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. We'll move on to item B, consider retirement, resignation, and new hires of licensed staff.
Yeah.
Right to item 3.
Yeah, so no retirements, no resignations, and one hire that I kind of hinted at is that we have hired a technology integration specialist in meeting with our admin team and Andrew Holland. We identified that we thought that we could continue the systems that we have in place, and it was time to kind of provide a transition to hire an individual that first was a teacher and somebody that was licensed as a teacher, and to work with our staff, especially 612 with our one-to-one Chromebooks, to begin to basically enhance the use and integration of technology. And so we're putting forward Josiah Wilson as our technology integration specialist.
Anybody have any questions or comments on this one?
Nope.
All right, take a motion.
I'll move to approve Josiah Wilson as Technology Integration Specialist.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. Item 3, consider middle school Beyond the Notes music trip to the Wisconsin Dells.
Yes, and so the middle school is going to present. We're really happy with this. Was information and discussion. This is an excellent program that we've been doing, and you want to lead us through the
Sure.
presentation.
Hello, board. My name is Diana Krahulik. I'm the middle school choir director. We took this trip last year. It went off smoothly, and I appreciate Mr. Igo for presenting for me at the last month's meeting. Really, the only things kind of updated out there then, I mean, our dates are the same. We're looking at 80 to 85 students going this year. The only really update is we did get some numbers from the coordinator. So inflation has brought it up just slightly, so we are looking at approximately $230 now for the trip instead of the original $212 that we proposed. Waiting on a couple more numbers to come in, but I did update your slides so that you could see some of those increases for you there. Other than that, planning is going scheduled as ahead, and our parent meeting is coming up on October 3rd.
All right, Steve, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
What do your numbers this year look like from last year? Is it an increase or?
Yes. Now I have to think about last year's numbers. Last year, I think we had about 75 to 80 students, so we do have an increase. We have more 7th graders that are continuing on into 8th grade this
Okay.
current year. So yes, we are looking at an increase.
Cool, thank you.
Vicki?
No question.
Tanya?
I'm super excited for this. My daughter 3 years ago was supposed to be on this, but then, COVID happened. I would say the only thing that I'm looking for, and I know it's not part of this, and it's something that you're probably still working on, but our dress code policies have been adjusted at the middle school and high school, and I would hope to see it's been adjusted and aligned within this as well. So more to come, I'm sure. Thank you.
Pat?
No questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion here?
I'll move to approve middle school Beyond the Notes music trip to Wisconsin Dells.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Item D, consider ECCP Start College Now for 2022-23 school year.
Yes, and I'll be presenting for the high school, as you can see in your handouts. This is one of the I think one of the nice enhancements that we have and continue to have built on, allowing students the opportunity to have early college credit program. At this time, we have one student who has submitted. Again, these classes are kind of later in the year. You approved early college in the spring that students are currently enrolled. Mr. Figge shared with me that there's about 12 students currently in this program. This would be somebody that would be starting late fall or what's referred to as a J term. And they are allowed to take it if they are selecting a class that we do not offer. You can see on there it would be 4 credits that they're selecting. The cumulative credits to date are 3, so the 7 total are still within our policy, and we would like to put that forward for approval. Then with Start College Now, that is, we have selected and partnered with Chippewa Valley Technical College. We have 5 students that are looking to take the array of classes, mostly psychology and also physiology and anatomy. That comes to about just shy of $2,900. It's something that we budget for each year and would highly recommend that we approve all 5 students there.
Pat, any questions?
No, I would love to ask Mr. Figge the same questions we ask him every single time, but Dr. Spikuza, thanks for summarizing, where people are at in cumulative credits, and I mean this continues to be a fantastic program, and I'm glad we're able to offer it.
Tanya?
I echo Pat's thoughts there. I was wondering, I think we've brought this up one other time, but this does align with policy, right?
Correct.
And we're staying under. Is there a reason why it comes to the board every time, or is it possible that it becomes part of the consent agenda, unless it's an outlier in there?
So actually, that was one of the things that Mr. Figge and I talked about today. Is I was just kind of asking about the different programs and that students are selecting. We do like to, basically recognize because it is, but I think for a matter of business, because it is a standard practice, we are monitoring and making sure that students don't go over. And to this point, we've never really had any student come up against that 18. So if you're fine with that, that's how we would like to move forward for the spring.
That's a great idea.
I'm great with it, and I think it's still, these are really awesome programs I think our public should be aware of and see some of those kind of expanded opportunities. So I would still love that maybe it's on our discussion every, at the end of the years or every quarter or however that looks, because it is really great programming and showing like we do a lot for our students with intervention, but we also do a lot for advancing our students too. So thank you. I think it's a great program.
Yeah, we were just notified, and as you know, Michael Kozmowski, who serves as our district assessment coordinator in teaching and learning, we always talk about the number of credits that students have acquired and the money that their families are saving. So it is a way that we could continue to make sure that people are aware of these 2 programs. So thank you.
Great. Vicki?
I don't have any questions.
Steve?
No questions.
Yeah, me neither. I like the idea of doing like a report at the end of the year to see what the numbers were. But yeah, I'm good with it. Thanks. Take a motion.
I'll move to approve the ECCP/Start College Now for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That carries. We are on to information discussion. Starting with the draft review of the annual budget.
Yeah, and it's kind of pleased in how you worked with us in the finance department at the district office, working with Sue Gertis and her staff. Typically, we haven't always been able to get you kind of preliminary numbers prior to our annual meeting. And so as this kind of sets up, this has been published in the paper. There are 2 notices that come from our clerk, Pat Block, that have been designated in the Pierce County Journal. This preliminary budget is on our website as well as in the paper, I think it was 2 weeks ago by statute. A couple things that I wanted to kind of walk us through just to make you aware is that we are in the process of finalizing the audit that usually is not done until November or December. So you have 3 years when you look at it left to right. The 1 year, 2022 2020, 2021 is a final audited numbers, and then you have the kind of preliminary numbers from June 30th that have been presented to Clifton Larson, and then here's our projected budget for the year. The way it kind of unfolds is that it goes through the general fund, special education. I'll come back through all of these, but if you think about all of the fund numbers that we talk about, you'll see that general fund is our kind of operations. It's Fund 10 that you receive every month on that update. Our debt service fund are related to Fund 38 and Fund 39. Those are things that are either voter approved or the residual of Fund 38, which is our energy efficiency. Our capital project fund is basically Fund 46. You will see a unique blip here because that is part of the short-term bond anticipatory note that we had prior to getting the bond. So you'll see that the money that was in the capital funds at this point is booked into Fund 46, but it will transition into Fund 39 for direct payments. And then you'll see Food Services Fund 50 that you receive, Community Service Fund. That includes three things. So you have Fund 81 that you get that monthly report on, which is Prescott Community Recreation, Fund 82, which is Community Ed, and then also our partnership with the city for the position of a half-time school resource officer. Finally, there is a fund that we have to report on, but we don't participate in, so it comes across as goose eggs all the way across. And then I'll end with regards to the impact on property tax. A couple things I just wanted to draw your attention to is that the fund balance has increased, and part of that is due to revenues that we did not know that we were going to be receiving at the time that are related to federal dollars, ESSER 1 through ESSER 3. We have been able to bill and receive the monies for ESSER 1 and 2, and those are completed. We are still in the process of basically procuring the different resources and things like that that will be added to ESSER 3. If you recall, some of that was evidence-based instruction strategies. It also included the different interventionists that we have hired. So we hired another math teacher up at the high school. We have hired interventionists at the middle school, and then we have Mr. Morning, and then we have some programming that's down at MIS and Malone. So some of it's going to personnel, some of it's going to evidence-based programming, some of it's going to our one-to-one payment with regards to our technology, and so that is something that'll be coming off. Early in the spring or summer, I had talked a little bit about one of the challenges that Sue and I were having about balancing the books with regards to whether or not we would have a balanced budget for you. And I had hinted that there might be the first time in my 8 years that I would be sharing with you that we would have more expenses than revenue. But given that we had a fund balance, that was something that we thought would be able to occur. I'm proud to tell you that at this point, if you look at the first box at the top, and it has total revenues, it's coming in at just under $17.3 million, and our total expenditures are $17.3 million. At this time, we believe we will have a balanced budget. That is, I think, also a testament to a lot of the foresight you had as a board to pay off some of your previous debt for loans that you had, being able to reduce over $1 million of interest. Our ability to pass the referendum and lock in rates. If you heard about the feds today, they've already moved them up 75% basis points. So that's happened twice since we locked in under 5%. So all in all, we realize that we have done this from a state legislature that has given us $0 over the last 2 fiscal years, and we're about to begin the biennium. The reason I tell you that is it foreshadows that a lot of this has been balanced on the over $1 million that we're receiving from federal funds. And if those federal funds don't come, and they're not, they end this year, it has to come back to us through our state legislature. At this time, they are sitting somewhere between $5 and $7 billion of taxpayers' money. I believe that it would be very helpful for that money to be coming back to our community in the way of being able to invest in our students and our staff to continue the great academic programming that we have. So overall, it's a balanced budget of 17.3. Obviously, one of the things that you remember from Baird's presentation last year is the one thing we can guarantee is these are not the final numbers. These numbers will be presented next week at our annual meeting on Wednesday, the 28th. Is that right?
Yeah.
September 28th?
Yep.
And then it will continue to be refined as enrollment locks in and we get our equalization aid release from DPI, which is the second week of October. And you'll finalize the budget as you do on an annual basis the third week with regards to the third week of October. A couple other things of note is that we are budgeting at this time. If you look at the capital project fund, you can see that it kind of varies with last year. That's where we're transitioning with the ban, where the $15 million was taken out, and then we have successfully paid that off on September 13th. We were able to pay that off with the bonds that we ended up purchasing in July, and that again is below 5% overall, and we are being able to not take out a full 15. We have 15 million to invest that our community looked at, but we had some additional monies from Fund 39. What we are going to suggest is that given that we have a lot of enhancements and some things regarding our facilities, we are investing only the referendum dollars in infrastructure. So those are things behind walls and above ceilings, is that we do have some learning environments that we'll talk about later that you have a workshop on, is to put $125,000 into Fund 46 within this budget year. It is now, we remember this was a trust fund that was locked for 5 years. Once it reached August of 2022, Fund 46 may be spent on our kind of 10-year plan with regards to features that are not being addressed by the referendum. Another thing of note is when you look at food service, Fund 50, we had a healthy fund balance in 2021. That was kind of the ending or first year after and in of COVID. But when we ended through that and we had that kind of transition where we were providing food to all students, but also to the community, we were challenged by the way that materials were coming in and supply chain, but then also having to package food for the community in different ways. We ended up losing a lot of money. Last year, we were able to feed 100% of our students, both for breakfast and lunch, based on federal dollars that came in. That generated back some additional monies, and so now we are back at a healthy fund balance. That fund balance is managed and reported to DPI, and it is part of the formula or black box that goes into setting the food prices for lunch and breakfast. It also allows us to invest in, remember, Fund 50 is its own entity, so our kitchens, dishwashers, sinks, steamers, all of that comes out of the capital investments come out of Fund 50, which is our food service. Community education, this year we are looking at across the three is to increase the levy at that of another $25,000. That's to cover three specific things. Both the salaries for PCR, community ed have increased, healthcare has increased, and then so has the salary for SRO. And so that will be part of the proposal for next Wednesday. Now, what people are really probably more focused on is what does that look like for me as a taxpayer? And so what we are looking at is that when you combine all of the funds, we are managing slightly over just shy of $22.8 million on an annual basis. That is going up about less than 1%. But the good news is really around the proposed property tax levy. When we went out for $15 million, and when we talked a year ago with both Lisa Bosson from Baird and then Debbie Burnett from Baird, we specifically stated that we would be looking at being able to not increase our mill rate, as well as not to increase the amount of money that we would levy on our community. And I would say that it was a promise made and a promise kept. What you will see is across the general fund, the amount of money that will be levied will be less than it has been in over 3 years, about $5.2 million. We do have then the services for our debt. That's money in and money out based on the voter approved. What you will see is that the overall school levy is going to be again, this is projected, so the numbers will change between now and October, but in very minuscule ways. It'll be $9,548,000, and it's a drop of 2.16%. I think that, as you can see, it's lower than what was levied in the year 2021, and it's about $200,000 less than was levied last year. I think for our community to be able to have supported the infrastructure and to make sure that our infrastructure lasts another 20 years, not to have their taxes or mill rate go up, the proportion, obviously, mill rate is related to the proportion of taxes that are asked for by the school, I think is a success. I do want to share another document that kind of lays it out in a table form and then ask for any questions that you might have as I've kind of gone through that. Basically, what we have done, again, is a comparison across time with regards to the valuation of the levy. The levy, remember, is based on the equalized value of the community. So it's about the amount of value based on businesses that have expanded, our business parks, as well as real estate and the assessments. That assessment is not part of what the Prescott schools do, but the overall value has increased, and so that has basically then is divided into the amount of money that we are asking for. Remember, that is capped. So since 1993, the levy cap, and it's very important, as you'll see editorials, you'll see pamphlets coming out about monies that are given to schools, and what those monies was to help offset, appropriately so, some of the taxes that are on our community. But those dollars that they say went to education did not go to our teachers, did not go to our programs, did not go to the infrastructure. So it is a partial win. I think when they sit on over $5 billion, they need to continue to invest in our staff as well as our student programming. What you will see is that for the first time, we are going to drop our mill rate from double digits to about 8.37. What that means is that for every $100,000 on a house, somebody will have $837. Now, this will vary based on which community that you're in and the proportion of taxes that are allocated across the municipalities. But on average, as the values went up in houses, the request by the district is almost $200 less per 100,000. A different way of looking at how the tax levy is put together is that you have the revenue limit, and again, we can't levy anything more than that. What comes outside of the levy limit is voter-approved debt. So anytime you're going to the community, and that's how the legislature has set it up, we will be asking for just shy of $3.8 million. Then the Community Service Fund covers Prescott Community Rec, our community education, and our SRO, which comes to the overall tax levy that you see here that I've mentioned above. So when you look at kind of the tax revenue by year that's coming in, since 2018, you can see the trend is down, and it's pretty flat. And yet you understand that just like homeowners, supply chain, CPI, salaries are all increasing. And so to be able to be in the position that you're in, I think speaks to the fiscal conservative aspect and being proactive that you have been with regards to managing your debt, as well as some of the other prudent decisions that you've made. This is the final graph that just shows the mill rate over the since 2014, and you can see how that has continued on the proportion that the school district is asking to fund public education, strong schools, and strong community. So with that, I'll pause and see if you have any questions about some of the things that have transpired and where we're headed, and anything else you would like to have either presented next Wednesday or refined for the community on Wednesday's annual meeting at 6 o'clock.
Steve, do you have any questions or comments here?
I don't right now, Mike.
Vicki?
I don't have any questions really, but I had talked with Lisa and kind of got a little bit more information and background on how to understand all of this, and she said there was a possibility of it going down, but that's a little bit more than what I think we were even thinking, so this is really good news.
All right. Pat?
Rick, real quick, if you go back to your budget summary sheet, I just got a quick question. The special projects fund versus the capital project fund, is the special projects fund, and if I always forget the number of that.
146.
146?
46, right?
46.
For capital is Fund 46, yep.
Okay, capital is 46. The special projects fund?
Here, sorry. I don't get it.
So capital is.
There you go.
So the capital fund project, this is Fund 46, and you can see how the balance, was at 600, then we crossed the $1 million mark. The reason that it goes up so much, again, is based on the shifting of money from the bond anticipatory note, then the referendum. We had both dollars in-house. It's been paid off as of September 13th. So this value will drop back down to just a little bit over $1 million.
Okay.
And we're proposing the 125,000 to be added.
Okay. And then how does that then affect, so that comes off?
Correct.
At some point in time, right? Okay. And then the special projects fund, the fund balance at 330.
This one?
Yep, and I forget the number of that fund all the time.
Yeah, I would have to, I didn't bring my finance folder with me, but I do know that debt service fund, so that's the 38 and 39. This may be, but I would have to, I'll hold on that. I'll ask Sue to make sure that we clarify that for next Wednesday.
Okay. That is right now my only questions.
Okay.
Thanks. Tanya?
Well, I always love seeing our tax impact going down. That's great. We did promise that to the community. This is more than I think we actually kind of predicted, flatline, more or less. So this is really great. You brought up again the zero increase from the state, and we're at a biennial year, so it's a really important year to advocate for what we need here. So to answer your question of what can you bring to us next week, I would love some really specific ways that we can and the community can support that advocacy work further. Other than that, I don't really have any other questions about the budget. Looks great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I just want to point out a couple things to make sure I understand the standard right, Rick. So Pat kind of hit the first one with Fund 46. So we're going to add 120. The projection is to add 125,000 to the Fund 46 this year. So at the end of, for the 2023 budget, it'd be we'd be looking at, if we didn't spend any of it, because we now have access to it, right? In August, we do have access to it.
Correct.
So right now, the projection, if we spent $0, would be like about 1.67. Is that what I got? Did I get that right? I'm sorry, 1,100,000.
100.
167?
Yeah. And it's also, remember, we also have this in a stepwise CDs.
Yeah.
And so you're also getting interest on that. We have not spent any of it, so I just want to be clear about that. That has to be done at a board level, and we'd be bringing that forward. And at this time, it really is tied into kind of our, what we're referring to as our strategic facility and grounds plan that we'll talk about coming up here in 2 information items.
Mike, I'm sorry, I just want to piggyback on your question, though.
Yeah.
Is that what we're saying the 388.9 is up there that's on the board?
Which number?
The $388,900 of non-referendum debt service
It's
fund?
that, it's second box
Third-
there, fourth
third
line
line.
down.
Under summary.
So are you asking what that number is?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I guess that kind of really, and sorry for
Yeah, I'm
jumping
trying
on
to
your
follow.
question, Mike. So the
Oh,
question,
the non-referendum debt service fund, 388.
the question that I was asking before about what's the,
Fund.
yeah, what is the, keep going. Sorry,
Yeah.
you guys. The special projects fund.
Yeah, and that one I'll have to get back to you.
Okay, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So confirm
That is almost.
on the Fund 46. And then
yeah.
the second thing I'd like to point out, Rick, and just verify this for me, but our fund balance is creeping up, and we're projected to be at about 6.5 million roughly. And we have a budget of 17 million.
Right.
17.2. What was the ceiling that we set in policy that we want to be around?
Yeah, we're at the ceiling, and I think this is where we have to have that discussion as we move into the next, and monitor this with the next biennium budget. But I think that right now, understand that we will be losing about $1 million of revenue. And so that, obviously, if I can tell you that nothing will happen before November. I sent to all of you a kind of a timeline article, and they don't believe that anything will be resolved until summer of 2023. What I do believe is that, based on your work session set for Monday, this is where you start to talk about putting the puzzle pieces together as you start to identify the learning environments that have to be enhanced, and then also the grounds areas for athletics that we've started to discuss.
Yeah.
And part of that is because, remember, our initial proposal to our community was to go out for about $22 million. And that survey with school perceptions came back that wouldn't have been, that was too much of an ask, and it was inclusive of some of the enhancements of classrooms. And so as we talk through at the work session, you'll see that we have about 4 rooms that are going to be deconstructed all the way down to the concrete, but no plan to rebuild those until we understand how we want grade configurations and things like that. So that's where I think your money will be starting to be earmarked.
Completely, I understand that we're going to have a workshop on that. I just was curious if we were close to the ceiling. I assume we are. I can't really have to go back and look at the policy, I suppose, but.
It has 3 prongs to it. One is that to make sure that we can carry 3 months of our overall budget. Right now, we're spending slightly over $1 million per month. And if you look at kind of the packet today in finances, we have received no dollars locally and no dollars from the state at this point, and yet we have operated since July 1. So we're July, August, September. Our first payment should come in October, but that's a 4 months of no money coming in. That is, so that, again, the fund balance is a date in time, which is June 30th. And so it's like a heartbeat. But you're absolutely on spot that it is at the highest level. That
Pointing out that I think we're financially very well positioned, very strong, and to say that since 2017, we've dropped the mill rate 4 points. roughly. That's pretty incredible, and given where we're at, and given the position we're in financially, it's really super impressive and a positive story. I hope we can really nail and tell well. So, well done. Anybody else have any other questions or final thoughts here? All right, thank you. We'll move on to B, reminder of the annual meeting.
So a lot of the information that we talked about here is the primary reason that we have a meeting scheduled a week from now. It'll be held here at the library at 6 o'clock. Anybody that is within our school district boundaries is welcome to participate and be able to vote on the different agenda items. As you recall, typically this runs where we have a quick update on the state of the district. There would be a budget hearing. That'll be run by myself and our finance director, Sue Gertis. And then there are different resolutions. We would pass a resolution on the adoption of the tax levy. There is an option for salaries of the school board. There's reimbursement for school board members on expenses, and then a discussion on whether or not to set the date at the annual meeting for 23-24, or to give what typically has been the practice, setting it at a board level once we know where we are sitting financially. So again, that's next Wednesday, the 28th at 6 p.m. here at Prescott High School.
Anybody have any comments or questions here? No. All right, let's move on to item C, update on referendum and repayment of ban loan.
Yeah. So because the referendum allowed us to do and try to set up some initial work, we did take, again, a short-term loan. It had to be paid back by December. That was $15 million. That was paid off on September 30th. The closing papers arrived today. I want to thank Sue and Baird Financial and Quarles and Brady for walking us through that. It is, if you've closed on a house, there's a lot of paperwork when you close on school loans. The document came in today. It's 569 pages. We will pass that to you. You're welcome to peruse it, but it is pretty comprehensive. But it does take a lot of work, a lot of phone calls, but it has, again, set us up to be, it allowed us to get some of our initial work done this summer, although a majority of our referendum work will occur in the summer of 2023. We did have a phone call with River Valley Architects and with Markin & Johnson on Monday. Participants included myself and Mike Hoyka. The bid packages for bid packages number 1 have come in. Mike was able to finish up on the call. We're waiting for those to finalize and be sent over to us. And then we began to outline the bid packages number 2. I did put in your packet the overall outline of that our phone call, as well as kind of what's being addressed at each building. Some of the things that are still going to be done this fall and then into kind of the school year where time is available is that hardware that's ADA compliant, some doors, tuck pointing to the degree that it doesn't interfere with lessons because of the sawing that out will occur. Over at the middle school where the entrance for the gymnasium is, that is going to be all torn out and poured by Markin & Johnson this fall. It'll include a ramp and kind of a sitting area for as students, basically are coming or waiting after basketball, volleyball, and the like. We have started to order things that have pretty long supply chain issues, so some of the panels and electrical work has been, panels and fuse boxes and things like that have been ordered. That means that when the bids go out, whoever gets that will have to work with what is referred to as owner-owned materials. And so that is in process. So that's what the ban helped us do, was to be able to manage that until we were able to purchase the bonds. That then went and has now been sunset, and we're left with the $15 million based on the bonds that are there. So that's where we're at. We're scheduled to have kind of bi-monthly or bi-weekly meetings that'll continue to refine a lot of the work, and we'll continue once we have a little bit more information to give you with an idea about kind of when does asbestos abatement, when do the roofs. We're looking at many different options. We have kind of the tiered roofs and flat roofs to look at, and they're going to come back with some options for us to consider.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
Maybe two, Rick, and maybe they don't fall neatly into this one, but they probably don't have it yet, but as Market and Johnson is receiving numbers and putting things together, will we be able to see kind of a trending report on what those numbers are based on the initial estimates? We can, I mean, things are going to flow up and down, I get it, but it'd be good to see a trending report to see, are we on schedule to do the things we said we wanted to do? As inflation and escalation continues to move around. And then secondly, maybe just a question, I'm sure you're already on it, but owner direct purchased materials, I completely understand that. I'd be curious some strategies Mark & Johnson is using to control subcontractor installation escalation. I know there's a couple things they could do.
Okay.
If they had just a simple kind of, hey, here's a couple strategies or tactics they're using, that'd be good.
So strategies that the subcontractor, that they're using with subcontractors to manage the cost.
So we're purchasing long lead materials to get them right here. How are they going to control escalation, you know, if they aren't going to be installed till next summer?
Yes. Yeah, and so a couple things that, again, depending on things that are getting ordered, some of the things we've learned are 24 months out, so that'll be an issue. Mike asked really astute questions where the work is slated to start, you know, in kind of June, but they're telling us the materials won't arrive until after June. So we're kind of trying to figure out how that plays out, and we'll continue to monitor. Some of the things that we're ordering with regards to hardware, mullions, doors, things like that, they will continue to be on weekends or after students are out. So we're working with contractors on that. So there'll be minor things throughout the year with a majority of the big ticket items in the summer of '23.
Yeah. And even though we're direct purchasing materials, I would hope Market is still, they're still advocating for us, you know, when it comes to, you know, warranty management and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else, Pat?
No, thanks.
All right. Anybody else? Good questions. All right, let's move on. Item D is discuss the September 26th work session.
Yes, so in the span of 7 days, you have 3 meetings. And as I told the admin team, it's one of those times where I really do think it's a transformative period for Prescott. There are many things happening. Both, we just talked about the amount of work that Mike Koika is doing currently just in covering our facility and grounds, then starting to manage the meetings and also then installation on site as our primary facility supervisor. I would say it's a J-curve. The amount of work and attention that Mike Hoyka will be dedicating to that project will continue to escalate as we head into the summer. The reason I mention that is that in August I presented to you 4 projects or proposals to kind of outline our work as administration and as a school board. Of those 4, 2 of them were dedicated to learning. Next month you'll hear an update with regards to the way that we organize our classes and time periods at the high school. So currently we had gone from semesters to trimesters, but there are 5-period days, and we are looking at adding a 6th period. It will shrink the amount of instructional time, but it will expand some courses that have only been able to do 2 terms out of 3. And so we're looking at some of our advanced classes and some mathematic classes to be continuously provided across 3 terms. It also will add 12 additional selections, again, depending on the courses that students are taking. So there are some opportunities for students to be able to select classes as electives. More of that will come forward. Mr. Figge has been working with his staff on this for more than 2 years. They were ready to present last year, but it was really rushed at the time where they were trying to also do our course books. And so we did say we didn't want to rush it. We wanted to have the discussion. And so October and November, that'll take place. We are looking at the Cooley River trails as well as our facilities with our varsity track that's deteriorating faster than anticipated. And then the last learning item was to look at kind of the grade configurations and with a goal to try to make sure that we are matching the instructional programs in the right buildings with the right kids to be able to enhance and extend some of our programming. So what I wanted to kind of just share with you is that this was brought forward to you in 2019. And I think to kind of dust off the rust or knock off the rust is that we are, I think, right on schedule with kind of the things that we had promised to lay out. A lot of it had been disrupted because of some things that distracted us with dealing with COVID and some other crises. But we had promised that we would be addressing your strategic directions that were the 5 that you had identified when we updated our vision and mission and value statements. The strategic direction, B, D, and E, really talked about just making sure that we had a strategic plan, and that plan was specific to make sure that we took care of and maintained 4 buildings, and that we'd have educational spaces that were in good repair, that they were functional and dependable. That is level 1, and if you kind of look at the timeline from 2019 to 2022, we were able to pass the referendum, and now we're starting to plan how that money is going to be invested into our buildings. Level 2 was to then talk about strategic direction that were A, B, and C that are making sure that the learning environment, how we teach today, is dramatically different than 1960. And yet the 3 buildings that we're investing in were all built in the 60s or before. And so when you think about how instructional design and our academic model, we want to make sure that we have time to be able to update you on how the academic model and School D plays into how structures, we believe, sometimes suppress the ability for us to enhance or provide new programming. What I want to make sure that people understand is that unlike the national as well as state information or storyline, is that the academic performance of Prescott Public Schools continue to increase, and that'll be released on the 28th, which is the 29th, which is the Thursday of next week. So you'll hear more about that at our next board meeting. As we talked about this, it obviously is something that will take a little bit more time, and so we did set aside Monday, the 26th, to specifically look at those from the 4 proposals. They were not prioritized. You pulled out in August that we would prioritize a discussion or a work session specifically about the grade configuration, the academic model. And then you added a 5th proposal, and that proposal was that it's time to make sure that we have in place and start to articulate with our community, develop a strategic facility and ground plan. Sometimes people call that a long-term master plan. We believe that that would be an advisory committee, and we believe that that would be an opportunity for us on Monday to at least identify some key questions about the areas around our grounds and then how that would intersect with facilities over the next 10 years. And so we're going to call this kind of a strategic facility and grounds plan for 2022 to 2032. And we have some guiding questions to work with you about that. As you know, the directives was just to make sure that we provided comprehensive, high-quality instructional programs, provide fiscal responsible investments in learning and work environments through strategic ongoing facility, staff, and program planning. And so we just kind of finished up about our finances. We are really probably in the best financial situation that Prescott Public Schools has been in a long time. And we have the backing of our community to take care of pressing infrastructure needs. And now we have the ability to say, how do we want to make sure that the learning environments match our academic model and the programming that we currently provide, as well as the programming that you see or might not even be on the radar over the next 10 years. And so it talks about making sure that effective school boards kind of commit to that vision of high expectations of student achievement. It's kind of coming back to what is our purpose, and we are, first and foremost, a learning organization. And so that was kind of just a reminder of kind of what we had shared with the board and the community in 2019. A reminder, and I thought it was really well addressed by the board, to make sure that we added the 5th and start level 3 of the, starting with that strategic plan. The agenda has been published, and I just wanted to pull that up so that we can verify that it's matching kind of the expectations you have as a board, and also to see what, if anything, else might need to be present on Monday night. Give me a second. And so that is the work session scheduled for the 26th. That will be in the library here. Things that we were going to review is that you had 2 facility studies and architectural studies. I think, Steve, you were part of one of the, I know you chaired part of it. I think it was multifaceted, but it had for a review of kind of a environmental scan in 2014. We have the architectural study from 2019 with River Valley Architects. We have the academic model, and we would kind of walk through understanding kind of where we currently are and where we're going. As we've been stressing with the admin team, kind of our end of year is how does our mission, what's relevant, and are we in alignment? So it's kind of just a check-in to make sure that we are working on the things that you see as priorities. We would then end the meeting with understanding kind of a discussion about the district strategic facility and grounds plan, addressing short, near, and long-term future plans. So we broke it kind of similar to what we did when we were working on the referendum. They would, and the facility advisory committee, things that are near-term or short-term would be defined as 0 to 2 years. Midterm would be 3 to 6, and then 7 and beyond. Part of that, as we talk about it, is we'll start to provide you with some reading information so that you can kind of come in ready to go. And obviously, here to just clarify if there's any other expectations. Again, it's a specific focus on the grade configuration and alignment of middle school and the intermediate school.
Anybody want to jump in here? Any questions or thoughts?
Just one point, just from a scheduling standpoint. I know we're starting at 6. It looked like I saw something that said 6 to 9. Is that the plan, to go 3 hours, or?
That's what the invite said.
Yeah, but I think we're going to cap it at no more than 2.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
No,
Yeah,
that's-
after 2, we
We
kind
won't complain about
of
that.
lose it, yeah.
We do have, so I worked with Andrea and Andrew Caudill, and we will have times set up in the agenda assigned. So if you can work with Mike, our understanding is we would like to make sure that the discussion about the kind of strategic kind of committee, again, not to finalize it, it's just kind of what are the priorities that that committee would do, who are the stakeholders you want to include, how often do you think they need to meet, what are some of your expectations of timelines. So that would kind of take the last, I believe we have 120 minutes, and we were divvying that up to about 40 of the 120. I think it was 80 minutes would be covering the grade configuration, the facilities, and the last 40 minutes would be dedicated to the strategic Planning Committee.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the agenda here, and I'm guessing can we get this, you're saying you're gonna get us some of this information ahead of time, right? The reviews of the architectural studies, like A, B, and C, we all have. You can get those ahead of time to us, so we can at least have them.
Yep.
So I don't think we don't want to spend a lot of time
Just rereading.
reviewing what we already know.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we can have it, ahead of time, and then we'll have it. So when we get to item D and E, that's the meat of the discussion. I'm guessing that we're going to want to spend a lot of time on. So less presentation time, more collaboration time.
Yeah, we have everything ahead of time, then questions can be written down and
Yep.
stuff before.
The other thing I would add is the 2014-2019 studies. That's more of a facilities base. I know we talked a little bit about enrollment and all that stuff there. Our enrollment has changed in the past couple, really years, pretty significantly with new housing and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how much it's actually impacted our enrollment, but I'd be curious a little bit about where kids are going to be, kind of that flow of building capacity and all that kind of stuff in the next handful of years.
Yep.
For sure. And honestly, I just want to tease it out here. We don't have to have a discussion on it, but I think we got to get to a point where, what does the board want to do with the grade configuration, the grade shift? Is it something, because we've heard, from different people on the board, different ideas on what to do, what the decision should be. Should it go to a committee, or can the board make that decision? I would like to have that discussion at the work session and make sure that we come up with a decision at that workshop, or at least an agreement on what that looks like.
Process.
Yeah.
So, because there's some big stuff on here that is definitely going to fall in the strategic plan. The external, the outside, the space, the green space, I think is a big one that I think we're all going to probably agree upon pretty easily.
Yeah, and I would say as we've been meeting, the admin team has been going through this. Michael and Kyle have been spending a lot of additional time on it. Basically, what we're hoping is that there's some direction. And the reason I say it's transformative and it's pivotal is that there's a short window that if all of this is interrelated, and so you have a lot of the things about the referendum, time is finite, people are finite, and that there's a window of maybe synergy between some of this, that if it's not done for fall 23, it may be that it will delay it to fall 2025. And so I just wanted to kind of, as you look at the information that we present, there's a folder, we'll have the items for you, and then obviously we will have handouts, still debating whether or not we're doing a three-reading binder or not, but you'll have access to a lot.
If anybody has anything that they want to make sure gets in front of the meeting, let me know, and I'll talk to Rick about it. Okay. You got anything else?
Well, I was going to ask for some things, but
Yeah.
you want to do that now or later?
Well, go ahead and do it now.
Yeah, I think what would be helpful, and I know it sounds like Groundhog's Day, but back when we did, the type of information that helped frame up the referendum and then the maintenance work that we're doing on our buildings, I could use a refresher probably for Mike. What were the pieces and parts on there that didn't get approved? So what are the things that in the future, right, that still need to be addressed? And then I think also what components related to green space, whether it's the track or the fields or whatever, aren't on that master maintenance menu that also need to be considered for long-range planning. I think that'd be, maybe we can't have it ready by Monday, but that's something we should shoot for.
Yes, and not to lower expectations, Mike Koika took a vacation.
Good for him.
Bless his heart. So he's gone now, and he'll be back next Tuesday. But I have many of the documents, I think, that I can, no, I won't.
Yeah, don't bother.
But I do think we had that one document where we I don't remember if it was highlighted or whatever, what we're going to do, what we're not going to do,
Yep.
and we can refresh.
And he and I reviewed that on Monday.
Refresh it, and then we just need to add some of the green space, maintenance projections to it.
And Andrew also has pulled together what the other districts in the middle border, including our new partner Altoona, and has kind of what they've done with their green space and their fields. And then he has basically a 30,000-foot view of how many green spaces do we have in existence. And his goal is to continue to give, what I had talked to Mike about is that we wanted to move as an admin team more to kind of giving you quarterly reports. And so I think that as a basis within the year, you should get a status report around community ed. You should get a status report around PCR. You should get a status report on our green space. Like, how well is that facility, whether or not it's a track, football field, press box, whatever, and how does that play out for timelines of when it may or may not need to be updated?
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
Well, maybe, so just to add, I mean, other district property, right? So there's the buildings, you know, on the outside of the baseball field, you know, I mean, it'd be good to get pretty comprehensive with all that. And again, I realize that's going to take some work, and it won't all be ready by Monday, but.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? We're going to move on. All right. Moving on to recognition of visitors. Nobody's in the audience that really wants to be recognized, so we're going to move on to item 10. We'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned at 7:10. Thank you.